I'd like you to watch something. Since I'm so technologically savvy, I have to show it to you this way. So watch this. This is really interesting.
I talked to Pastor Wilfredo de Jesus Choco about how to mobilize the church. We need you to be mobilizing the church right now. Now again, this is really key, because on Sunday I wanted to say we've been pausing, and right now everyone's focusing. Are we going to be online? It's great you're online. If you're not online, get online. But that's not the crisis. You can't meet in large groups. That's not the crisis. Even your giving right now, that's not the crisis, right? But that's all going to be real to us, but it's not the crisis that will be the defining crisis of our lifetime. I'm not an alarmist. 3 weeks ago, people were saying this is, well, a certain slice of society was saying this is no big deal.
In case you don't know, the man in the picture frame is Ed Stetzer. Ed Stetzer is one of the gurus of the evangelical church. If you don't know anything about the hierarchy of the church, and it got lost in translation, the evangelicals are the top echelon of the church. There are parts of the church that are kind of iffy as far as whether they're going to make it or not, but the evangelicals are shooing for heaven. And to the best of what I understand, that's on account of them praying the sinner's prayer and then having personal subscription to the Christianity Today magazine. Ed is one of the world leaders of the evangelical church. If you don't know anything about Ed, and I knew nothing before this video, it turns out that Ed is no small potatoes. He breaks bread with the Surgeon General of the United States. He makes podcasts with senators and Congress people. He mingles with the crowd at the White House. And he is invited to write editorials for some of the leading national magazines. When I think of it, if Ed were alive in Jesus' day, I think he would have been a regular at the Herod's palace, Pilate's place. He would have rubbed shoulders with the religious elite at the temple. Here is Ed, and Ed is a leading voice in a choir that is reaching a feverish pitch of trying to tell us that this is our moment for pastors, for leaders, to mobilize the church for the mission. The COVID-19 pandemic has plunged us into this crisis that, according to Ed and others, will be the greatest crisis of this generation. So at all costs, what we have to do is to now try to motivate the church for the mission of, as Ed puts it, showing and sharing Christ's love. When I watched the video, I got caught up in Ed's message, so much so that when I was finished, I was ready to go. Try to motivate anybody I know within the reach of my voice, for the mission. But then upon second reflection, here I must credit Ed for sort of awakening me from my spiritual slumber. And I can't help to wonder, why is it that every single time the bottom falls off and the church's spin doctors come out and try to wind us up like a bamboo spring to try to go on with the mission, try to mobilize the volunteers, motivate us, inspire us to now start with the work of the church in those moments of crisis? What if the need for us to do this comes from an error? A false conviction that actually the people we're motivating have anything to do with the Church of Jesus Christ. I say this because if you think about it, and instead of looking at that red blinking light, focusing all your attention on it, because the crisis has come and it's a crisis of a lifetime. What if we take 3 steps back? And we look at the local congregation. I don't know if you ever noticed that in every one of those local congregations that we call churches, there is a handful of people who never need to be mobilized for the mission. They don't need motivational speeches. They don't need carrots. They don't need candy. These are the people who are day in and day out, Sunday in, Sunday out. The people who are quietly loving people to life. What if they are the church of Jesus Christ? And the other people who are always needing, bigger carrot on a shorter stick, sweeter candy, another motivational speech from their favorite leader, have actually nothing to do with the church of Jesus Christ. You see, I wonder about it because when the biblical text talks about the people who truly belong to Jesus Christ, it talks about people who are compelled by the love of Jesus. The word compelled is interesting. It comes from whitewater rafting. When the river flows in the plains, it sort of moves lazily, overflows its banks, doesn't have much energy or passion for anything. And then it comes into a canyon. And the walls of the canyon force it into a rapid flow, give it power and energy. The word compel means to push water between the walls of a canyon. And when the Bible talks about people who belong to Jesus Christ, it uses that word to say that what actually gives energy and power to people who belong to Jesus Christ is they're compelled by His love. Not motivational speeches, not little volunteer seminars, not inspiring little quips from people who would like to get them to get going and moving on the mission. No, these people are compelled by the love of Jesus. And that means that the one wall of the canyon that holds them is that wall of God's grace that gives them a lease on life. And the other wall is that wall of God's truth that actually gives them a new script for living. They do what they do because as Paul the Apostle, speaking in that passage, mentions, they understand that Jesus died for them, so now they need to live for Him. He loved them to death, so now they are loving people to life. So why don't we stop for once? No, seriously. In this mad frenzy of doing what we do every single time, there's a crisis somewhere in the world and we think this will be the defining moment in our lives, and now we have to show, and share the love of Jesus with the world, because otherwise, the editorials will speak condemnation on the church, or we will not be noticed, or, we'll miss that great opportunity. Why don't we just stop for once? Because I think actually that the church of Jesus Christ, the people who are compelled by Christ's love, are always out there in their neighborhoods. They notice their neighbors. They notice their needs. They can get their groceries without, getting a little mention in the local paper. They're the people who notice the newcomers who come that maybe stand aside and nobody notices them. They are there early on Sunday morning because they prepare to help the children to learn about God. They don't need thank you letters. They don't need the services of appreciation. And as God's my witness, they certainly do not need a little title of hero next to their names. That's embarrassing for them. So why don't we stop? Because I think the Church of Jesus Christ is always the Church of Jesus Christ, and it doesn't need our motivational speeches. and all that talk about being mobilized again. And as for the rest of these people, you who always need a bigger carrot, a shorter stick, waiting for somebody to come and give you attaboy, well, what if you're not the church of Jesus Christ? But you could be. It's just that for that, you need to get alive. So why don't you get alive? No, I mean it. Get a life.